Hey everyone, welcome back to BookShortz, the place where powerful stories are brought to life in just a few minutes. Today we're diving into a book that doesn't whisper, it shouts. Laurie Halse Anderson's Shout is a fierce and unforgettable memoir told in poetry. It's raw, it's emotional, and it's one of the most powerful books you'll ever hear about survival truth and reclaiming your voice. If you're someone who loves stories that matter, stories that shake you, wake you, and stay with you long after they end, then you're in the right place. Before we get into this eye-opening journey, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on the next bold book breakdown here on BookShortz. All right, let's dive into Shout, a story that refuses to stay silent. Shout by Laurie Halse Anderson. A story that refuses to stay silent. Imagine surviving something so traumatic that it shakes the very foundation of who you are, and then being told to keep quiet about it. Imagine carrying that weight through your teen years into adulthood, feeling the pressure to stay composed while the world moves on. Shout is not just a memoir, it is a battle cry. It is fire on the page. Laurie Halse Anderson doesn't whisper, she roars, and in doing so, she gives voice to survivors everywhere. This book is a reckoning. It's the truth told in poetry. It's a story about survival, silence, shame, and ultimately, the power of speaking out. Anderson, best known for her groundbreaking novel Speak, returns not with fiction, but with her own story, raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically honest. Shout opens with the early years of Anderson's life, a childhood shaped by instability and dysfunction. Her father, a World War II veteran, carried the trauma of battle like a ghost on his shoulders. He would disappear into silence or erupt into violence, struggling with alcoholism and post-traumatic stress. Her mother, emotionally distant and overwhelmed, became another form of absence. Home, for Anderson, wasn't a sanctuary. It was a place of confusion and survival. But what shaped her most deeply came outside the walls of her house. At 13, Laurie was raped by a boy she thought was a friend. He was older, someone she trusted, and he shattered her world. This moment became the fracture point in her life, a before and after. The assault silenced her. She didn't tell anyone, not because she didn't want to, but because she had no words. No one had taught her how to speak about pain like this. She buried the trauma deep inside. School became unbearable. Friends drifted away. She began to skip class, retreat into herself, and make reckless choices. She numbed the pain with alcohol and anger. Adults saw her behavior but not the reason behind it. Instead of help, she received punishment. She became the bad kid, the troublemaker. No one asked what was really going on. It took years before Anderson found a way to begin healing. That healing started with reading. Books became her refuge. In the pages of stories, she found clarity, escape, and eventually the courage to write. Poetry, in particular, gave her back her voice. It was through writing that she began to name the things that had haunted her. Her journey led her to write Speak, a novel about a girl who, like her, is raped and silenced. The book resonated with millions. Readers wrote letters. They cried in auditoriums during school visits. Survivors approached her after talks and whispered their truths. Anderson became not just a writer but a listener. Her book had opened the door for others to shout, but even as Speak gained recognition, Anderson faced criticism and censorship. Some schools banned the book. Parents and officials called it inappropriate. She was stunned. Why were people more afraid of the word rape than of the act itself? Why did so many prefer silence over truth? That resistance only fueled her fire. If people were uncomfortable with Speak, then Shout would be impossible to ignore. Unlike her fiction, Shout is written in verse, a deliberate choice. The format mimics how trauma feels, fragmented, sharp, unpredictable. The poems move between past and present, from Anderson's personal story to the voices of survivors she's met along the way. This is not a linear memoir. It's a mosaic of pain and power. She revisits the night of the assault, not just to describe what happened, but to explore how it rewrote the story of her life. She describes the shame, the silence, the feeling of being broken. But she also writes about rage, the white-hot anger that builds when you realize how many people look the other way. That anger became her fuel. Anderson speaks openly about the long road to healing. It wasn't a straight path. Therapy helped. So did time. But what helped most was breaking the silence, speaking the truth, helping others do the same. She details her experiences visiting schools, hearing students confess their deepest traumas, and witnessing how common and how hidden sexual violence is. The statistics are staggering, but the personal stories are even more powerful. Anderson doesn't just present facts. She gives pain a face and a name. She also exposes the hypocrisy of a culture that punishes survivors more than perpetrators. She calls out the systems, schools, governments, religious institutions that protect abusers and silence victims. She's not afraid to name names, to challenge power, to demand change. Shout is a political book as much as it is personal. It's a rallying cry for education, accountability, and empathy. But this book is not all darkness. There is beauty in Anderson's words. There is resilience. She writes about the strength of survivors, the bravery it takes to keep living, to keep loving, to keep hoping. She writes about her daughters and the joy they bring. She writes about art and how it heals. There is light in this story, not because the darkness disappears, but because Anderson has learned how to carry it without letting it define her. The title, Shout, is not just symbolic. It's a command. Anderson is telling the world, especially young people, that silence is the enemy, that secrets fester in the dark, that speaking the truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is the first step toward change, and that survivors deserve to be heard. The power of Shout lies in its honesty. It doesn't sugarcoat pain. It doesn't tie trauma up with a neat bow. It's messy, just like life. But it's also proof that telling your story can be a revolutionary act. Anderson turns her pain into poetry and her rage into revolution. She doesn't ask for your pity. She demands your attention. This book is for everyone. Survivors who need to know they're not alone, parents who want to protect their children, educators who want to do better, and anyone who believes in truth. It's a book that will make you uncomfortable, and that's the point. Growth doesn't happen in comfort. Change doesn't happen in silence. Shout is not an easy read, but it is an essential one. It strips away the filters and speaks with fierce clarity. It will leave you breathless. It will leave you angry. But most of all, it will leave you inspired. Anderson's voice echoes long after the last page. It demands to be heard. It dares you to listen. And once you do, you'll never forget it. Because this is not just Laurie Halse Anderson's story. It's the story of millions who were told to sit down and shut up. And now, finally, they're ready to shout. If you want to listen, full audiobook for free. Link on description. Thank you.